Ladies and gentlemen, I started this YouTube channel to recommend books like this to you. The book of Ebenezer by G.B. Edwards. What I always loved about reading was discovering the unknown gems. That's always been the greatest thing for me, is to read a book. Why isn't this book still popular today? Why aren't people today still talking about this fantastic book? Okay, I know that reading is not as popular as it used to be, but you would imagine that something of great value and importance would just last and last and last. It's long. It's close to 500 pages. Perhaps it's better for more of a mature audience. I don't know how much a 20-year-old is going to enjoy reading this as much as I enjoyed reading it, but who knows? Maybe if you're a very mature 20-year-old, this will be something fun to read. I'll give you the very basic plot outline. There is a very old man, Ebenezer. He lives on the Channel Island of Guernsey, and he is reflecting on his long life, the relationships, the friendships, the relatives, the mother, father, aunts, uncles, cousins, the cousins and cousins and cousins, and what it has meant to him to be a human being full of ordinary, explosive human being emotions on the small island of Guernsey. Now just take a moment, pause the video, and search for the island of Guernsey. Look for where it is. I'll tell you that it's a British territory, island, and it's so tiny. There's Guernsey, and then almost right beside it there is Jersey. And apparently the people on these two islands hate each other. But look where it is. Like, it's nowhere close to England. It's right there, all cozied up to France. So that was quite a shock for me when I Googled where this island was and just how tiny it is. All right, I'm going to read you 3 things to give you a sense about what this novel's about. So here we get, in chapter 6, the introduction to our wonderful narrator, Ebenezer LePage. I thought a lot of myself when I was a young chap. I wasn't bad looking for a Guernsey boy. I was dark, with a round mousseau of a face, and thick lips, and a pug nose, and high cheekbones, and deep-set brown eyes, and a bush of black hair. I haven't got much of that black hair now. What there is of it is white. I've still got enough teeth to eat with, and I can hear all right, and I've never had to put spectacles on my nose, though I have to look through a magnifying glass to read the births, deaths, and marriages in the press. And I will write big in this book so as to be able to see what I'm saying. I didn't grow very tall and wish I was taller, but I had broad shoulders and a good chest, which I used to go around with stuck out like a pigeon. I was given fine, strong legs, but they were a trifle bandy, even then, and have got bandier and bandier the older I've got. I wish now I could straighten them out a bit, but I can still get along with them all right. With a stick. He's an old guy, and he's reflecting on his long life, and he's trying to do it as honestly as he can, it seems. Of course, we have to suspect the unreliable narrator, but it seems that he's really trying to dig into his truthful past. He may be remembering things through rose-colored glasses, can I use that expression that way? He may be remembering things a little bit more fondly than were practical to the time, but the story of this book is that he's writing his life, that he wants to leave a diary of his existence behind as his last job on this earth, because he's seen so much, he's lived so much, he's had so much human connection with others that he doesn't want to go into the grave not having left some record of that, which makes for such an astounding book. I wish I could write down the story of this island as I have known it and lived through it for the best part of a century. I don't think that I have changed much, but I think everybody else have. The young people of today don't know and can't imagine the difference between living on Guernsey as it was and living on Guernsey as it is now. There is a great gulf fixed between the present generation and mine. I wish I could bridge it, but it is too much to hope. The only ones who might feel as I do are either dead or old people who, like me, are not very clear in the head and don't always remember right. What a little genius this man is. How he knows his life and the people around him and the way that they've changed as the world has gone rolling along. This is a very long, beautiful, and sad book, filled with ups and downs. His life, Ebenezer's life, has been rather stable and perhaps even a bit uneventful. And all of the drama in this incredible novel comes from his interactions with the people around him. His father was killed in the Boer War when he was rather young, and he doesn't remember his father very well, and his father hardly appears in the novel. His mother, though, very religious, kind of an interesting character. And then his two aunts, his mother's sisters, who sometimes get along and sometimes don't get along. And then his uncles, his aunts' husbands, incredible characters. One of his aunt's husbands, who is just such a fantastic character in the story, is that his aunt was terribly ashamed of her husband's baldness, and she refused to be seen with her husband unless he was wearing his hat, which meant that they never went to church together. Her husband, almost constantly ignored by everyone in the family just because he was never allowed to participate because he was bald and he always had to wear his hat. And of course, he didn't want to wear his hat when he was in his home, so his aunt always told him that he had to go out to the garden or go do something so we don't have to look at your shining bald head. How's that for one of the dozens and dozens of characters you're going to meet when you read this novel? And that's the thing about this story, is that there are dozens and dozens and dozens of characters. Do you need to remember them all? I didn't. My idea is that if a character was mentioned 2 or 3 times in a chapter, I thought, well, okay, surely they must be an important character, but all of the other characters are floating in the periphery. What about the others? Will they appear later? They will. All of these characters on this very small island come in and out of the narrative. If you remember them, well, good for you. I often didn't, but I found that it didn't matter too much. There was the principal story, and there were all these sort of vague other characters circulating in the out of focus a little bit, outside of the main narrative. I love this book. I love it. I don't know why I love so much almost every single book I read where it's an old person reflecting on their life. The Book of Ebenezer LePage, The Stone Angel by Margaret Lawrence, The Something Something of Judith Hearn, Mrs. Palfrey at the Claremont, Moon Tiger by Penelope Lively. All of these books about an older person reflecting on their life, the ups, the downs, the joys, the hardships. God damn it, it goes straight through me like lightning. Is it the same for you? Do you enjoy these books as much as I do? Because never once do I find them boring. There's always such a humanity about these books that maybe it happens when you get a little bit older, that you can begin to relate to when you were a teenager and you had all of that hyperactive emotions that teenagers have, and the love and the hate and the trials and the struggles. And then you get into your 20s and you become so goddamn cynical. And the way that your memory works, and everything gets a little bit faded and everything gets a little bit cushier as the years go by, and you think back and you remember fondly perhaps times that were not really very happy memories if you had to live them again. G.B. Edwards, there's an introduction here by John Fowles. John Fowles, the writer of The Magus and The French Lieutenant's Woman, goes into the strange peculiarity of the man named G.B. Edwards. I'll read you his author's bio. The thought of having a public image appalls me. So, Gerald Edwards wrote in a letter to his friend, Edward Chaney, before his death in 1976. He destroyed all fragments, correspondence, and records, except for his birth certificate and a photograph of his mother. Born in 1899, Gerald Basil Edwards was the son of a quarry owner in the north of Guernsey. He wrote of his earlier life, "My boyhood, adolescence, and young manhood was an increasingly intense fight to the death against my mother. And indeed, all of my relationships with women have been a fight to the death. I survive, but in grief, for I have sympathy with what I fight against, and sorrow at the necessity." Edwards was married and had 4 children, but the marriage broke down in 1933. He joined the Royal Guernsey Light Infantry in 1917, but never saw active service. He ended the war in Portsmouth as a sergeant instructor of gunnery. From 1919 to 1923, he studied at Bristol University, but neither subject nor degree can be traced. And then, in the end, it gets very strange. When or how he spent the years following the breakdown of his marriage is not known. But during the Second World War, he worked in an employment exchange and seems to have remained a civil servant until retirement in 1960. Then he went to live rough in Wales for a year. From 1961, he spent 3 years in Penzance. From 1964, 3 years in Plymouth. And in 1967, he moved to Weymouth. He wrote in 1972, "I live from day to day at the edge of living." He spent the last years of his life as a virtual recluse, living in a house outside Weymouth until his death on the 29th of December, 1976. So this book was published posthumously. In the introduction, John Fowles goes into how that came about rather extensively. I don't know if you like John Fowles. I'm a fan, even though I haven't read any for quite some time. The introduction is excellent. As usual, I would advise reading the introduction after you finish this incredible novel, because even reading the introduction gives you insight into the author, and I don't think that is helpful when you're reading this long, interwoven novel. I loved it. Just fantastic. Just absolutely incredible. I read 100 pages a day. I had to stop because my eyes were pain. I had pain in my eyes from reading because it was too good to stop. And by the time I got to the end, he gives a little bit of a recap about, and when that happened. And it is the story of a human being's life, a fictional human being. And I guess the thing that really excited me through the first half of the book was that in the Second World War, Germany controlled France. Because Guernsey Island is so close to France, the Germans occupied this little island, which was occupying a little bit of British territory. And so these British people who live so relatively close to France are suddenly having to tolerate the occupation of their small island by these Nazi soldiers who are here, taking away their livelihood. They took away all their cars, they took away all the bicycles, they took away all the food. And he tells us, he's like, when the Germans were here, some people made a lot of money, even though they shouldn't have. Some of these really clever people on this island managed to make a lot of money. And he also talks about, something I really had no idea about, was that the Germans brought over these basically slave laborers, people from the prison camps, to build embattlements. If the British came to reclaim their island, the Germans would be able to fight them off from this position. I had never heard of the Guernsey Islands before reading this book. It's so tiny, but you read this book and you realize how much life there is. Not just this one main character's life, but all of the lives that he touches on and he illuminates with his incredibly brilliant writing. And you realize that this happens every day all over the earth, that this world of ours is just alive with all of these human beings and their emotions and their emotional connections with everyone else. And what can I say? It's too fantastic that we are such sociable creatures. We can be in contact with so many other people with their emotions and their lives and their hardships and their struggles and their desires. And we all live a life full of, humanity. Year after year after year, life after life. I often wonder why everyone on earth doesn't try to write the book of their life. Write it down. Just write down who you are, where you went to school, the friends you had, the disappointments, the things you wanted that you realized later were not things to want, the unexpected things that came to you that you realized later were so much more important than you knew at the time. That's all we have is life. And this novel really captures it so perfectly. Book lottery time. All right, if you support me on Patreon, you'll win this wonderful book. It's really beat up. I'm sorry about that. It's a long book, and the longer the book is, the more I manhandle it. But I think it's pretty hard to find. Consider yourself lucky if you win this one. You will also win my magazine, The Friend from Budapest, Part 1, and also Part 2, The Friend from Budapest, Part 2. This is my writing. It's wonderful, and I'm soon going to be a very famous writer. You'll see. And these will be so valuable. If you just want to buy these, please write to me at grantlovesbooks@gmail.com, and for $15 I'll mail these to you. Attila, Hungarian friend. Nagyon köszönöm, uram. Én magyarul sajnálom. A napról a napra. Kisebb és legkisebb. Congratulations, Attila, my Hungarian brother. I'm going to send you that, and I'm going to send you that. Thanks a lot for supporting the channel. I really appreciate it. I still have a lot of friends in Hungary, but they're not so much interested in my channel. So I do appreciate the support, Attila. Thank you very much. And I miss living in Budapest, man. God damn, I miss it all the time. Where I'm living now in Canada is just so empty. It's like a vast hinterland of nothing. And Budapest, god damn, I was so happy there. I miss Budapest. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you very much for watching. If you're still watching all the way to the end, me roaming like a silly old fool down memory lane, which I guess is not a surprise considering the nature of this book, which is about a man doing exactly the same thing. And I'll stop talking now. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe. And have a great day, and please read this book. This is exactly why I made this YouTube channel, is to tell you about this book, which you've probably never heard of. It's just a masterpiece written by a very strange person who we don't know anything about because he was fanatical about remaining anonymous, which there's something interesting that we have to respect about that. Thank you very much. Take care. I miss Budapest. I was there during the golden period, 2001 to about 2007, when all that European Union money was flooding into Budapest. I know most of it got stolen by, just went into the pockets of all the friends of the government, but some of it still managed to, there was so much European Union money coming into Hungary that they tried, and there were so many improvements being made in Budapest.